The discussion of what topics are deemed appropriate and acceptable in children's literature is certainly not a new one. That's why we have Shveta Chandra with us today at Bookbibuli. Hi Shweta.
Hi, thank you for having me for your podcast.
It's our pleasure. So, most recently, the subject of age banding for children's and young adult books has been heavily debated, both in the media and across the social networking sites. Those in favor believe that children's fiction pushes boundaries that aren't appropriate for all readers. Those who talk against are about restricting children's choices and alienating readers with a younger reading ability than, of course, their chronological age. I think the truth is that it is surely a combination of the two. And there's just variety of genres and not all books are suitable for all readers. And coming to children's literature, I think it's wide in itself with the ranging genres. Don't you think?
Yes, I think there is a lot of children's literature available now, like historical fiction, science fantasy, non-fiction, picture cartoon books, and traditional literature, even fables, myths, and historical books. So there's plenty of children's literature these days.
Yeah, it's a never ending list. Shweta, what do you think is the origin of children's literature?
To me, I believe it can probably be traced back to the fairy tales and maybe folk songs, and it probably you know began at a time when there were really no other sources of entertainment or even probably educating your children, and that's how adults, parents probably started entertaining their children and even educating them. And like for me, I do recall back this time when we were really little, and our grandfather would sit with us at night, and he would sort of regale us with tales from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. And because there was really no other way to spend time with the children and to entertain them, so that is something we would always do in the evening, especially when our parents were away. So I think it probably started at a time when there was nothing else, and this was one way to educate and entertain children.
Absolutely. So, if I were to ask you three main purposes of children's literature, what would you say?
I think the first would be to educate, and in not just educate vis-a-vis learning, but also like even vis-a-vis their emotional learning. Like when you read good stuff, you form your own opinions, um, you learn some valuable lessons. So emotionally, to learn, emotionally become more intelligent, and also to be more educated, learn about different cultures, about our history. So that's very important. Second would be entertainment and even creative satisfaction, because watching mindless TV is no way to really grow and learn as a person. But if you read good literature, if you read good books, then of course and you're fond of it, then it's great entertainment and of course simultaneous learning. Third, perhaps would be maybe personality development, or I think it's a great starting point if you read good literature.
Shweta, how would you choose age appropriate literature for your kids?
Of course, most books these days do have a sort of like a age appropriate level printed on them, but I think that's not the only way to rely, because every child has a different interest and a different reading ability. Like even for example, my daughter, since she's an avid reader, she finished everything good that was available in her age, and then she moved on even to young adult. So I wouldn't just rely on that, that whether it is. I also like to do my own research. I always go along to when they go book shopping, and also we just shop from few bookshops. We wouldn't go everywhere, because I like to go to a bookstore where even the person selling is aware of what's there in the books. And I also like to do a little bit like read about the book, so that they're not buying anything wrong. Because one, of course, I wouldn't want my children to read something which is not meant for their ages. Second, I wouldn't even want them to get put off by reading something that is dull and boring, or something that was too much for them at some point.
And you think age appropriateness is important in children's literature?
If they do not read, what is of interest and appropriate for an age for them, then they might either get put off from reading that, oh, nothing of interest is available for us. Or if they read something which is way too heavy for them, or if it's too scary, then also it can be a big put off, because, I wouldn't want them to feel uncomfortable after reading something which wasn't meant for them, and, which may lead to a lasting bad impression. So, which is why it is important to read the right stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. Being an Indian parent, what's your take on children's literature available in the Indian market?
Compared to when we were children, there was barely anything available to read at that time, and I was always very fond of reading. I think there are plenty more options available for them to choose from, especially till 14, 15 years age. But I think for a young adult category, I would feel that there still could be more. There could be more options available. There is still a little dearth of stuff to choose from, but it's still for age below that, there is plenty to choose from. There's no end.
Yeah, that's right. So, Shweta, would you mind telling us what do you think of Bookbibuli as a platform?
Bookbibuli is actually an amazing platform for parents as well as children who are fond of reading, because you can find reviews of books. You can listen to podcasts from authors, listen to perspective of children about what do they think about reading, or of course, given the different ways you can review a book, you can actually find out if this book is a good option for you to read or not. So I think it's a great initiative and a great way forward.
Thank you so much, Shweta. It was a real pleasure talking to you. To all the listeners, stay tuned for more episodes in this series only on Bookbibuli. See you next Friday.